Hey, it's Aaron the Metal Theologian. Well, it's kind of been a while. It's been a long couple of weeks, man. I've been traveling a lot and shit for work. It's a busy summer, actually. I usually just sort of stick around at the house and, like, do my own thing and, like, listen to a lot of music, you know, watch old fucking Outer Limits episodes and shit like that. It's a little uncharacteristic of me to be so fucking busy that, like, the videos suffer. But here we are, you know, whatever. It's all good, right? I think it's a little bit funny when people make videos and they say, like, yeah, I'm gonna take some time off and this and that. Because fucking nobody cares, you know what I mean? Just like, I mean, there'll be a couple people out there in the audience for sure, but for the most part, it just feels a little bit, you know, maybe self-aggrandizing is a little bit too strong, but if you duck out for a little while, people aren't necessarily gonna freak out on you or anything, so they understand. So just sort of a little catch-up. So like shit I've been listening to is what this video is going to be about. Because it's been kind of, I mean, again, a little bit more of a mix. Pretty heavy on the hip-hop, honestly. But it's funny. Last time I'd been listening to a little bit of Jesus music too, and this is a record that's sort of it's not Jesus music, but it's sort of, I get a similar sort of vibe from it, and I mean that in like an absolutely like positive, like glowing way as much as I can. And this is a new reissue that actually came to my attention. Actually, the fine folks over at Void Records sent me this copy. But this is Richard Soutar. Or Soutar, I guess it's Soutar, I don't know. Lavender Daydreams. And, I mean, I've hyped the Void label in the past. They do a lot of this sort of stuff. They do these in sort of old shit. It's kind of, there are a few really heavy rockers, like they did the Boulder Dam and Ellison from Canada. And, when the Dry Water record is pretty heavy, you know, there are a few, but there are a lot of more ones that are more sort of like mellow and sort of folkier things, which doesn't really tend to be in my wheelhouse a lot of the time, but like the dude who runs that label has a knack for finding these just sort of like weirdo, like outsider ones, which probably means he's well known at the thrift stores and he just knows the shit when he sees it, but what can I say, right? That's how it works. That's how this game is played. And this, I mean, I swear, this is one of my favorite discoveries, like, on the label. It's probably one of the most mellow records, too. It's playing right now, but, yeah, this one was kind of hard to get for a long time, too. So this is a relatively recent repressing, and I kind of want to make a point of hyping this, because this is really sort of a favorite record of mine, and, if you're at all interested in this kind of shit, I want you to know about it while you can get it for $20 instead of, you know, 60 on Discogs or whatever, you know? So yeah, I'll let this go for a few minutes. You can just sort of take it in, you know. It's principally the one guy. I mean, you know, he has people credited for bass, flute, percussion, and drums. But yeah, Richard Soutar's vocals and guitar, and there's actually a later record of his too. That's a lot more recent. This one's '76. I believe this one just came out. I mean, the record just came out within the last couple of years. I think the songs are recent, too. They're all copyrighted 2018. I suppose it could be he had written them a long time ago, and these are newer performances of that, or something along those lines. I don't really know the whole story. And this record's good, too. I mean, this is a very enjoyable listen. It's fun. Yeah, but Lavender Daydreams is the one that I'd be like, dude, that's the one you need, you know? It's a really cool record. So if you're at all inclined, you can tell I've been running around a lot, like, less articulate than usual. Yeah, like I said, I just want to make sure that you all know that this is available. This picture of him on the side, too, this kind of makes me smile a little bit. It's so much of a product of its time, but there's something so unpretentious about this, too, the way it's presented. You know, it's really I think it's easy for a record like this to come off as kind of self-indulgent. It's like, oh, here's all this important shit that I have to say. And this doesn't really feel like that at all, you know? In fact, there's another Void one that I also like. Not quite as much as this one. But a similar sort of vibe, you know, kind of all one guy's work. And, you know, similarly sort of had the potential to sort of be like, you know, self-important or whatever. And just doesn't come off that way at all. And that's this one by John Palmer called Shorelines. I think I showed this one, I don't know, a while back. Within the last year or so, I think I talked about this one. But, yeah, it's another cool one, so don't snooze on these guys. this stuff is so understated that it's sort of easy to let it go by. You know, it doesn't come out with a lot of fanfare and that sort of thing. But, you know, you can miss out on some real gems if you're not paying attention. So, yeah, one more time, man. Richard Soutar, Lavender Daydreams. You may not need it right now, but the day will come when you do. It's one of those kinds of records, all right? All right, cool. So, moving on. I've been listening to a lot of hip hop, and I've listened to a lot of Czarface. I kind of talked about last time. Like, this is a more recent arrival. You know, I love this stuff. But there's another one here that I got when I first got into this stuff a few years ago. And it's funny, like, if you go back like 4 or 5 years or something, you can like witness me in real time, sort of just discovering hip hop. Really, you know, it's not I didn't know these names; they'd been around for a long time and that. And I sort of felt like then I was getting to know the canon because I was mostly like focused on sort of the '90s shit mostly, and I listened to like, you know, the Ice Cube records and that sort of thing that I didn't really spend a lot of time with when they originally came out. This time around, I sort of feel like I'm developing a little bit of my own taste, and I tend to really be more focused on the production. I think I talked about this in my last video a little bit too. So this is another record that I wanted to give another chance to, because this is one that was highly regarded for specifically the production, that sort of thing, at least based on what I've heard. And, you know what's funny about this record is now that I've been listening to more of this kind of stuff, you know, like the, you know, stuff like this, which is an awesome record, by the way. This record, this is fantastic. I'm not shitting on it at all. But aside from the fact that it feels kind of weird to pull out a record in my collection and see a Geffen logo on it, this record really sounds like it had a higher budget than a lot of these other ones that I've been listening to. And it's funny because when it comes to like metal or like, you know, rock stuff, even jazz, like stuff that I've been into that I have more history with, those kinds of music, with those sorts of things, I like immediately sort of clue into, you know, how the production sounds. You know, like this is an expensive, like big label production versus this was an indie thing they did in their garage or whatever else. And I'm not saying that Deltron necessarily sounds like they did in their garage, because, you know, it doesn't. It's a professional recording. And I don't want to say that this one sounds, you know, slick, which is kind of the ultimate insult coming out of my mouth, you know, because I wouldn't say this sounds slick, but this does sound like, I guess it feels just a little bit less organic from just the recording being a little bit better. And that might just be my own prejudices talking. But, yeah, it's a funny thing to notice, especially as I'm listening to this thing and I'm really enjoying it a lot, you know? I mean, the fact is, usually my favorite records, they kind of sound, you know, maybe not like shit, but not necessarily great, you know? And so to hear a record like this and go, yeah, that sounds like it's really well made. They had a serious budget, as like serious people in the studio, like working with these things to get the best sound possible and that sort of thing. All that kind of stuff that normally kind of turns me away a little bit. To hear that stuff and at the same time be really sort of into the way the record sounds. So, yeah, I've been playing this one kind of a lot, actually. Genius, Jizza, Liquid Swords. And I'm sure anyone who knows anything about hip-hop has already told you about that fucking record. This isn't like groundbreaking shit I'm showing here. So here, I'll show another one you might not have heard of. This is another one I pulled out again. No, actually, I just rebought this one not too long ago. I used to have this record and I didn't think much of it. And I came across it again, and I was like, oh, it's actually pretty good. So that's the Left End. Their band, I think they're from Youngstown, actually, in Ohio. Yeah, the address is New York, but I'm pretty sure this band was from Youngstown. Anyway, you know, it looks so, like, 70s in the way you want it to look 70s. And, like, you know, the guy with his silver suit, it looks like it's, you know, probably going to be a cool glam record, like... It's not going to be Ziggy Stardust, but, you know, maybe it'll hang with, like, Neil Merriweather or something like that, you know? It doesn't really do that. And I used to just feel like this record came up a little bit short. And I don't know, man, this time around putting it on, it's not the greatest thing ever, you know? You're not going to throw away your T-Rex albums because you got the Left End. But this one really kind of scratches the itch. The songs just sound good. They come together well. It kind of has some of that glam sensibility to it, but it isn't like so over the top with it that it kind of puts you off either. You know, it's like you have to be in a certain mood to listen to like Slade or something like that, you know. And these guys, it's just a really easy record to sort of sit back and enjoy. And yeah, I remember actually my first copy of this I got at Daystar Boutique in Cleveland. Okay, and I think I paid like $2 for it. And I had that one. It was one of those that I pulled out like once a year, you know, as I'm wont to do, and sort of give another chance to see if maybe this time I get it. And back with the old copy, it never clicked, but one thing I did like even back then was how, like, on the thing here, they have a little legend, like one of these old style things, they say who's who in the picture. And number 6, the chicken, who's right there. Like, I always kind of appreciate they were giving the chicken its props, you know? Yeah, anyway, if you just want to hear a cool 70s record with, you know, some glam moves, not that heavy, but just like a solid rock and roll album, Left End is pretty good, man. Yeah, I consider myself a convert on the Left End, and it's been a long time coming. I swear, I think I bought my first copy of that record that I've alluded to, I think I bought it 30 years ago. I probably kept it for about 20. I just have come back and give it another chance. So, oh, here's another hip hop one that I just discovered. Again, everyone else is going to know this one. You all already probably know this, but I just discovered Run the Jewels. God, this record's fucking good, man. This one is actually... Like, Killer Mike is a really good rapper. You know, so much so that he draws a certain amount of attention to himself. And since I'm mostly in it for the production, I kind of have mixed feelings about that. You know, it's like on the one hand, I'm listening to it and going, God, this is really good. On the other hand, what I'm really in it for are kind of the beats. This record delivers on every level, though, as far as I'm concerned. You know, again, I'm not the expert on this shit. But if, you know, like me, you're sort of dipping your toe in the water a little bit, you kind of want to check out some stuff that's been recorded since the 90s and sort of see where the medium has gone since then. You know, I'm really kind of fascinated by the fact that hip-hop, in terms of like its influence on popular music sort of generally, has probably existed longer than rock and roll had when I was first getting into music. You know, I mean, this is old now, you know, this record's like 2013 or something, right? And I'm kind of disinclined to go back and give like the Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash all the credit for inventing rap. The same way I'm kind of disinclined to go back and give the likes of Blue Cheer and Cream credit for inventing heavy metal. It's like, yeah, there's a pretty clear lineage there. It's not really that hard to pick out, but like, when the medium develops beyond a certain point, I think it sort of outgrows those sorts of constraints that it's easy to sort of artificially put on it in the process of looking for these predecessors. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I mean, I'm not inclined to... I'm staying the hell away from the commercial shit anyway, right? Which is part of why the production thing comes in, what I was saying. You know, this is a well-produced album, but it's not as close to sounding as slick as that Jizza record is that I showed before, you know? So yeah, it's just interesting that like people, it's like a bunch of kids who are younger than me figured out a lot of interesting things to do with this medium, with this new style of music, while I wasn't paying attention. I was just sort of looking the other way, doing my own thing. I mean, and, you know, valuable shit, you know? I mean, I was listening to my rock and roll, but I was like discovering jazz and that sort of thing. But I've tended to be a couple decades behind, so it feels kind of good to be like checking out this newer stuff and going, hey man, this is really good shit too, you know? Keeps me young, at least I like to think so. Yeah, speaking of old shit though, I pulled out these 3 records and played them in this order. Cause it's funny, it's like a Big Mac with the 3 like breads in it, like the bun and then that extra slice in the middle. 1, you know, 2, and then 3. The one that people tend to shit on out of these, The Revolution by Night. I love all 3 of these records, and I still always kind of feel a little bit sort of self-conscious bringing up Blue Oyster Cult because I spent so much time talking about them last year. But I feel like the first three, it's kind of, I mean, they're great records up by themselves, but it's also kind of cool and interesting to look at them together. It's sort of like a cohesive statement before they moved on to the next phase with spacing the title. The one with Don't Fear the Reaper on it. I can't believe I'm doing that. That is fucking. I was just joking about my age, right? There we go. It'll come to me as soon as I turn off the camera. I'm trying not to use the word trilogy because I feel like that's pretentious, and I don't think it was intended that way. But I sort of feel like the Blue Oyster Cult had a way of like sort of exploring a certain sound and a certain sort of vibe, and they would do that, and then they would come to the end of it and go on to the next thing. You know what I mean? And this was sort of like the really good like 80s sound arc. You know, I didn't like any of these records at first. Actually, that's not true. I did like Fire of Unknown Origin pretty much right away. And for a while, I went around saying that was my fourth favorite Blue Oyster Cult record because I was really only into the first three. Other than that, I'd really put Cultosaurus Erectus and Revolution by Night right there with it at this point. You know, and again, so much so that if I'm going to pull out one, I'm inclined to pull out the other two. Just like if I pull out Secret Treaties, I'm probably going to pull out the first two as well, you know, within a day or so, if not right away. It's tempting to call the middle three records that similar sort of thing, by the way, with Mirrors and Spectres and the one I'm spacing the name of. It's gonna drive me fucking nuts now. But it doesn't seem right to put a record as crappy as Mirrors on the same level as a record that has like This Ain't the Summer of Love, and frankly, Don't Fear the Reaper, ETI. I mean, that record is so loaded with good shit. You know, Tattooed Vampire. So yeah, so I don't want to quite go there with that, you know what I mean? So don't read too much into it. I mean, similarly, you could probably put Club Ninja into the 80s, like, category if you want. I almost said triptych instead of trilogy. That's even worse, right? But Club Ninja kind of sucks, you know? I mean, I like it anyway because I'm such a fan. I kind of can't resist it. But, like, I can listen to that one and recognize, yeah, this is not this band in their prime, you know? And Imaginos, I think, is actually a great record. But that's barely a Blue Oyster Cult record at all. That's one of those that sort of put on, sort of like Black Sabbath Born Again, and go, you know, this is one of those where if it was some private press thing that, you know, cost $300, it would be like a holy grail that people like me, or I'd be like, oh my god, this is this cool fucking thing. You're not gonna believe how great these nobody guys from fucking Shreveport, Louisiana are making this record, you know? Club Ninja is not that, you know? Yeah, I kind of think Imaginos is, and I kind of think Born Again is too. But they don't necessarily belong like in the same sort of bucket with that other stuff, you know. So in the same sort of category. All right. So let's put on an obscure metal one because of course there's always some of that kicking around these parts. Actually, I have 145 here to show too. God, I love that Richard Soutar record. So good. It took me a couple listens too. Like the first time I listened to it, I was just like, you know. Then the next time I actually like listened to it, and I was like, I want to hear that again, you know. And then I was like, wow, this is fantastic, you know. Yeah, this is the 45 I was alluding to. Actually, I finally treated myself to an original of this. You know, and I'll tell you what happened with this one too. That's the Burial single by Septic Death, and I've been a pretty big Septic Death fan since I was in high school. I mean, that's sort of one of those things where that was when I discovered them, and a lot of bands like that really kind of leave me cold these days. I don't necessarily dislike them, but it's not really something I go and seek out. But Septic Death, I discovered it like just the right point in my life where I needed that sort of thing. This is what's going on now, by the way. Check out that private looking label. I'm going to put it on side 2. Yeah, so I still have a soft spot for Septic Death. In fact, I have the LP right here too, or at least the version of it that I have. I think there are a couple different versions of this. I don't know. You'd think I might research the shit before I turn on the camera, but I don't. It's all vibes around here, man. Yeah, this record. I've loved this record since I was like 16. Now that I have the attention, what do I do with it? Anyway, a copy of the Burial 45 came up for sale for a pretty good price. And it had like the insert. There's the label. It had the insert and the sticker with it and shit too. I'll show it real quick. I'm sure I'm good drop and show the place, yeah, but there's the insert. I was like, you know something, man? I've been making a do with a bootleg of that since I was in high school. That was a long time ago now. And the boot I have is pretty cool. It's like it has a different cover, and like it's double 7-inch. And the first one is this, and the second one is like some live shit that frankly kind of sounds like shit and is a little hard to listen to. It's a cool piece in its own right, though. It really is. But this is like the real thing, man. And I was like, you know something? What the fuck am I waiting for? You know? So yeah, this is what we're listening to right now, and this is sort of going along with some of the sort of hard rock. It's not necessarily all that heavy shit that I was into like last month. But yeah, it's a band from Paris, Tennessee, apparently, called Architect. You know, a cover like this, I go, oh yeah, that's the real shit right there. Look at this. I actually did look into these guys a little bit, only a little bit, mind you. And apparently, the shit I was seeing was like this Eddie Key guy. Wait a minute. Yeah, it was like this Eddie Key guy's baby, but nobody knows anything about Eddie Key as far as I can tell. So yeah, I suspect there's, you know, Personal Management by J. Michael Key. I suspect there's a relationship there. It's from Paris, Tennessee. Recorded in Memphis. And I don't even know exactly. I think this came out in maybe 86? I don't even know. Yeah, it doesn't say on the label. So yeah, just completely obscure it. Of course, this is the kind of shit that I really go nuts for. So I could forgive a lot of flaws when it's packaged like this. Yeah, and also on the metal front, I've been maybe a little bit more decidedly metallic front. I've been trying to pay due attention to Spain, and the latest thing I've come across has been this guy, Magia Negra. This record's great. I'm gonna put this on for a minute after we let the Architect go for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you call your band Black Magic, and I'm pretty much in. You call it that in Spanish, and it's sold. Hey, here's another one I was really crazy about first time around. I played this earlier today, man. I really dug it a lot. See, this fucking shit's all over the place. But I don't know what's happening to me, you know. Maybe there's just like going to be how I listen to music now, which would be absolutely fine, by the way. But historically, I've kind of tended to focus on one thing at a time and not pull out a whole bunch of different things. Alright, we're going to put in a little Magia Negra because I'm running out of things to talk about. I think you got a little taste of Architect. It's not the heaviest thing ever. Not the greatest thing ever. I'm going to listen to the whole thing when I'm done filming this video. Because it doesn't have to be the greatest thing ever for me to like it a lot. You know, there are other channels that'll tell you how great Iron Maiden is, or Kiss, or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I have those records too, but there's a whole universe of weird shit out there. I don't know, man. I just love the humanity of something like this, you know? Like just some ordinary people having a go of it, you know? Yeah, here's the label on this one. So we're going to give this little sample too. This one's much more firmly metal than Architect. How can you not love this, man? Awesome singer. Yeah, man, Ramon. If he puts you off, I understand, but I think he's knocking it out of the park. From Barcelona, these guys are, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure of it because it says Barcelona right there. Just to be clear. Yeah, well, that's about it, man. I mean, I can just show you some more hip-hop records I showed last time. I mean, there's more Czarface. I listened to this one, too, you know? I guess there's a moral to the story. Let your kids turn you on to music. Because they might find some good shit that you haven't discovered. They may even send you down a whole rabbit hole that you didn't even know was there, you know? Alright, well, that'll probably about do it. I have a couple other new Void things to talk about, but oh fuck it, I'll show these real quick. So not completely off the Sons of Arca kick. Played India on this one. And actually, when it comes to 90s records, they just feel a little bit primitive to me. I mean, good, entertaining, but like not with the sort of same level of, you know, sophisticated production as the shit that I've been more into. This one. I still love this record. But not as much as Czarface. So anyway, let your kids turn you on to music. That's my words of wisdom for today. And listen to Magia Negra. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.